Joining us now to talk about the upcoming trial in New Jersey is Mr. Humeston's lawyer, Chris Seeger of Seeger Weiss. He's joining us live from Manhattan this morning. Mr. Seeger, thank you for being with us today.
That's my pleasure.
Your upcoming trial, how does your evidence with regards to Vioxx and Merck's liability differ from what was presented in the Texas case?
You know, I'm not sure that the evidence is going to differ greatly. The way lawyers present arguments, the arguments they come up with, the way they deal with issues in trial, that I think may be different in some respects. But the evidence is there. There are very compelling documents that show that Merck hid his cardiovascular problems from day one. They knew about them. They failed to warn doctors. And as a result of that, my guy, who's a former Vietnam veteran, wounded twice in Vietnam, taking Vioxx for his war injuries, winds up with a heart attack in 2001.
Now, Merck is assessing that there was evidence that went into this case, into the Texas case, that was irrelevant, and that the idea is that it may have prejudiced the jury. Is the same kind of evidence something, that particular series of evidence, is that something that you're going to present as well, or will you stay away from that?
No, I heard Ken Frazier's statement. That's an absolutely untrue statement. It's unfair to his own legal team because it suggests his legal team allowed it to happen. It's unfair to Judge Hardin. It's unfair to the jury. And that's Merck's strategy. They attack, they attack, they attack. When Vioxx was under attack by the scientific community, they attacked doctors. They attacked their own scientists when they became critical of the drug. Now, Ken Frazier's out there attacking Judge Hardin. So, you know, I don't even know how to respond to that other than to say, you know, that's typical of Merck. You know, here we go again.
I'm sure you must have followed very closely what was happening in Texas. Some have said that possibly the way that the widow was treated on the stand was something that may have hurt Merck's case and may have impacted the jury very strongly. Did you think that Merck lost the case on their own, or did you think that basically it was the other side who made a much stronger case?
That, again, that's Merck blaming their lawyers. Their lawyers did a terrific job. They dealt with what they needed to deal with. The cross-examination of the widow in that case, do you think that wasn't scripted internally by Merck? Do you think that Jerry Lowry just came up with that on her own? I'm sure Ken Frazier had his hand on that, too. So to blame their lawyers for doing a bad job, again, is an example of how this company deals with their problems. I'll tell you this. Their lawyers were good. They did a good job. The documents are overwhelming and they're compelling. The jury, knowing that there's tort reform in Texas, many of them have said this afterward, awarded a verdict that they know they'd never keep solely to send a message to this company. Did Merck get the message? No. That's obvious by Ken Frazier's statements. I mean, if I were a shareholder of this company, I think I'd be upset that they spend $20, $30 million to try a case and get a big verdict against them.
Well, I think there's a lot of shareholders that are very upset with the company and certainly with the stock performance. But in terms of the punitive award that you're seeking, what are you seeking?
I'm not thinking about punitive damages. I'm not thinking about a size of a verdict. I don't have an expectation of a $250 million verdict. I have an expectation of getting justice for my client. Whatever in New Jersey, it's different. We don't get to ask the jury for an award. The jury will decide on their own based on the evidence in the case. So hopefully I'll be able to do a good job for my client. I'll be able to get myself out of the way and let the documents tell the story. And when the jury hears it, they'll award a verdict in favor of Mike Humeston. I don't have any predictions.
Okay. And New Jersey, of course, is the home of Merck. I mean, Merck is based there. It's a state where pharmaceutical industry plays a pretty important and a pretty major role in the state's economy. How do you think a jury in New Jersey could be different from a jury in Texas, for example?
It's hard to say, and it's mostly for this. I mean, you know, this is Merck's home state, but New Jersey juries have tried cases and awarded verdicts against New Jersey defendants all the time. They could be fair. I think that New Jersey juries tend to be, I don't want to use the word conservative, but I think they tend to be, you know, show me the evidence type people. And if you show them the evidence, they're going to do the right thing. And I have confidence in that. I have confidence in the system. Look, we expect to win this case. If we don't, I won't be out the next day criticizing the judge, and I won't be out the next day criticizing the jury. This is a drug company who said that you can't have a cardiovascular event till after 18 months. Has Ken Frazier stepped up and I don't agree. Their studies show it happens right away. But have they stepped up to pay or compensate people they've hurt who've been on the drug longer than 18 months? No. So it's all a farce, and people should see through this. They should see through the arrogance of the company. It's the same arrogance of which they treated the FDA, and it's the same arrogance in which they treated the medical community when they didn't tell doctors for 2 years about a major study of 8,000 patients that showed 5 times more heart attacks. So I would say to people listening, don't expect anything different from Merck.
Mr. Seeger, in terms of your particular case, your particular client is very different. How much does it matter that in the first case you had the widow of a 59-year-old triathlete, Robert Ernst? You're representing a living plaintiff who had a heart murmur, who had weight gain and weight loss issues in terms of medical history that could impact the case.
It's interesting that you said heart murmur. That means you must have read the motions that Merck's lawyers have filed. Those are lawyers' arguments. Those have no bearing in evidence. Merck decided to send their motions off to the press to characterize my client as being a sick guy, obese, with a heart murmur. It's all untrue.
He did not have a heart murmur?
Even thinking it.
He did not suffer from a heart murmur?
He did not have a heart murmur. He did not have a heart murmur that would have anything to do with, there was a mention in a medical record about a possible prolapsed mitral valve, but we'll see how that plays out at trial. I hope Merck comes in and makes that argument at trial.
What about the idea that the Postal Office looked into investigating your client for his knee injury and for the accuracy of that knee injury?
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I could sit here and try the case right now. I would suggest you bring the cameras in the courtroom for that day. I hope Merck brings that one up also. All right. My comment, by the way, for your viewers, Susie, Mike Humeston still works for the Post Office. So, they can make up what they want. They can skew the evidence. I thought that Ken Frazier was going to try this case on science, though. Sounds like so far, they've been trying to focus people on Mike Humeston's, his employment, this potential heart murmur. I thought we were going to try the case on the science. That's what we're ready to do.
All right. I guess we'll wait to see how it unfolds over the next several months. Thank you very much for joining us. Our thanks to Chris Seeger of Seeger Weiss joining us from Manhattan to talk about his side of the case.